Ridgeway Brewery, Ivanhoe.
Life is too short to be drinking shitty beer.
Welcome to another edition of Bands, Bikes and Booze Reviews. This is Ivanhoe and it is from the Ridgeway Brewery. I don't know what it is. The description says it's a red ale and on the front it says a very English pale ale. So what am I supposed to get from that? That is really confusing. So Ridgeway, you need to make your mind up. What is it? Work out what it is and then tell us on the front of the bottle. Personally, I think that English pale ale that they've got written on there is possibly a marketing gimmick if it is a red ale. And if it is a pale ale, then your website needs updating because it says it's a red ale. So there you go. But I've got a bottle of it here anyway, and it is from the Ridgeway Brewery, as I just mentioned, and they are from... They're from a place called South Stoke, which is in Berkshire, very near Reading. I'm not going to comment on Reading, but it ain't the greatest place in the world. I have been up there a few times, usually with West Ham, and we've been humped a few times up there by Reading. And I'm just very disillusioned with a place that's named after a pastime. But there you go. Or spelt like a pastime. But this is their Ivanhoe, and as I said, I don't know what it is, so I really can't comment on what style it is. But what I will tell you about the Ridgeway Brewery, or Ridgeway Brewing, they're very good. I've tried their barley wine, I've tried their Imperial Red Ale, which was really nice. Now that was possibly a blend of red ale and barley wine. I did like that, and it did have that barley wine kick. It was 10% ABV, both of them were, and it did everything that a good barley wine should do. There was big malt, big ethanol, big invert sugar flavours in there, and yeah, it was good, and that's what I like in a barley wine. I do like barley wine, it's a great style of beer. Typically British though, you don't really get that sort of style in other countries. Possibly Belgian would be, you know, their strong brown ale. Occasionally you do get one that tastes like a barley wine, but usually barley wine is pretty unique to the United Kingdom. There you go. And this, I really don't know what it is, but if it's up to the standard of their other stuff, then it should be a good one. So let's stop guessing and let's investigate what this is. Right, what is it? I don't know. Red ale, pale ale, I'll tell you in a bit. It is 5.2%, and on the side it says a subtle red beer. See, this is where I'm confused. Now, if they're saying it's a subtle red beer, then I'm going to immediately think it's a ruby ale, or you know, maybe a red ale, one of the two. But then you've got pale ale, which is not red. It shouldn't be red, but you know, let's get past that and see what it is. It says a subtle red beer dominated by neither malt sweetness nor extreme hop. We want balance. Roast malts, whole English aroma hops, and bottling with live yeast and the keys to refreshment and drinkability. Now that sounds really good. Now it's bottle conditioned. It says beer is bottled with live yeast sediment and undergoes further fermentation in the bottle. All Ridgeway beers are bottled this way because the flavour is brighter and fresher. I didn't know that. They don't make a big thing about that on the barley wine and the Imperial Red Ale, but it makes sense. And don't take our word for it. Taste the taste this bottle against any ordinary pasteurised beer. Yeah, I will say that. You know, if it's bottle conditioned, it's generally what I like. I mean, don't get me wrong, there are some pasteurised beers that I like, but if it's bottle conditioned, certainly the Belgian stuff, 90%, possibly more of that stuff is bottle conditioned, and it's good. So yeah, that's what it says. It's got quite a nice label on there. Thing is, Ivanhoe, in case you didn't know, was the last Saxon noble in a time when, certainly in England, it's mythical, I think, but he was the last Saxon noble in a time when the Normans were dominating the royal family. Of course, that is completely wrong. Saxon knights would not be dressed up like that. So that's been written in medieval times, probably sort of 15th century. They've applied contemporary style art. Same with King Arthur. Legends of King Arthur were written around, you know, or depicted around the 15th century in their knights, and they wouldn't have looked like that. In fact, King Arthur was a Roman cavalryman, as far as I know, or a post-Roman cavalryman, basically a Briton that had adopted the Roman way of life, and when they buggered off, they carried on. But there you go. Enough of the history. Let's get this beer opened up and checked out. Quite interested now to see what this is. Cap's on nice and tight, which is a good sign. It's a plain red metallic cap. Looks good. I've worked out if I put my boat straight up near the lens, autofocus doesn't complain. So you might have to see my ugly mug every time I put a label or a cap up there. Now that does look like a pale ale. Why have they called it a red ale? Oh, hang on. I could be wrong. It's a bit... I'll tell you something, whatever it is, the fucking glass is dirty. That is disgusting. I do apologise for that. There is no excuse for that whatsoever. What are we getting on the aroma? Wow, that is malty and very earthy as well. Wow, real big earth on that. It's almost like somebody's got a handful of clay, shoved it in front of me nose. There was a little bit of sweet malt on that, but wow, that is really earthy, which is unusual. You don't normally get that much earth. Now, when I talk about earth in British hops, you do tend to get like an earthy style flavour, but it isn't usually that big. It's more spicy if it's a British hop. But that just reeked of earth. I'm sure the malts have got something to do with that. There's quite hefty roasted malt on there. Yeah, greenery. It's like a floral and earthy, and a little touch of spice on there. Now they're saying this is balanced, but all I'm getting is the hop character, and they're very British hops as well. Interesting. Let's see what it's like on ye oldie palate. Bottoms up. And that isn't bad. And do you know what that is reminding me of? I did a video recently of the Hepworth Pale Ale and Timothy Taylor Pale Ale. I had like a beer off, if you like. And at the end I did a blend of the two. And this is what it sort of reminds me of. I'll see what they mean by balanced. There's I'd say a fair bit of biscuit malt on that, but there's also that earthiness and the spiciness. With the Timothy Taylor, I think there was a little bit more. There was a little bit more bitterness on that. This is quite. That's probably the way I blended it, but this is quite. It is quite well balanced, and they do make a point of saying that. And yeah, they've got that spot on. But that really is earthy from the aroma. Wow. Carbonation is a little bit obtrusive. The finish is, it's just perfectly balanced all out. It's just all round balanced on the palate and on the finish as well. And it isn't bad, I have to say. Now, they're saying this is bottle conditioned, and I've poured everything in. I'm not seeing any floaters. It looks like it's been pretty filtered in there, so I'm sort of wondering where that bottle conditioning went on. It does look like a pale ale. That's not a red ale. I wouldn't really class that as a red ale. I'd expect a red ale to be darker, more like a bitter. If you see like a chestnut coloured bitter, that's what I'd be expecting. This is more of an amber, a sort of a light to medium amber. I'm liking it. And they really have got that description spot on. When they say a very English pale ale, that is the perfect description. Now, Timothy Taylor is a beer I'm going to compare it to. I'm also going to compare it to the Hepworth stuff. And it is, as I say, a mixture of the two. Maybe with, I think the Timothy Taylor has got a bit more hop character on there. In that blend, I was getting a lot more of the Tim Taylor style bitterness on the end. But I have to say, this isn't a bad one. And that is what I would expect a proper British pale ale to taste like. Biscuit malt, earth, spice, a little touch of spice, maybe a little bit of a floral type note on it from the, and they say there's aroma hops on here. They're not put in during the boil as much, because obviously that you're going to get more bitterness. You're going to get alpha acids released on that, and it's going to give it some bitterness. This is, yeah, they've put them in right at the, I wouldn't say at the death, but very late. And it's really nice. It has given it a lovely type of finish to it. Really good. And I like the fact that they've not jumped on the bandwagon. They've not brewed an American style pale ale, which is so easy for any, I wouldn't say it's so easy, but I think it's a bit of a cop out really, because everybody's doing it and it seems to sell. Not many people can say that they really like English pale ale. I love it. I really do like pale ale, especially when it's done well. And as I say, Timothy Taylor and Hepworth are the two favourites of mine. This isn't a bad one either, because this is, I would say this is pretty similar to the blend that I did. I know I keep going on about it, but it does, you know, when you recognise them flavours. Nice biscuit malt on here, not as big as the Hepworth, obviously, which is all about the malt. It's got the hop character as well, which the Tim Taylor stuff has got. And yeah, they have nailed that style perfectly. So what is the verdict on Ivanhoe English Pale Ale? Yeah, it's good. That description is spot on. Everything they've written on the bottle is spot on, apart from the colour. Now they're saying it's a subtle red beer. I wouldn't have said that. I would have said it's just a subtle pale beer, and dominated neither malt sweetness or extreme hop. Yeah, bang on. And it's balanced, and that's what that's the point they're making, and it is really well balanced. I like it. It's what I'd expect from an English pale ale. It's what English pale ale used to be. I don't mean the keg stuff, but when you could get good English pale ales. English pale ales got such a bad rep, and the reason it's got a bad rep is because you had all them pseudo pale ales, the keg pale ales like Worthington E and all the others that were around at the time. What was the other one? There was another one. Worthington E was one of them, and I can't remember the other one. But there was two pale ales, and they really didn't taste of anything. They were just so bland and boring. You can't get them now. I mean, it's died a death. Red Barrel, I think. Was it Red Barrel? I think that was a pale ale. But they were just shit. They really were the cheapest description of shit. I wouldn't say they were as bad as the Marston stuff that's being pumped out now, but yeah, I do remember. I didn't like them. My dad didn't like them either, and when I was growing up in the 70s and 80s, occasionally he'd get Worthington E in bottles, and he never liked it. And I remember tasting it as a kid. I mean, obviously when you're a kid you don't know, you can't tell, but it didn't taste nice then. But I remember the Newcastle Brown. That didn't taste too bad back in the 70s, and then that went to shit. So anyway, I'm rambling. The ramblings of a fucking madman. This stuff is good. I like it. That's going to get an 8 out of 10. A solid 8 out of 10. I'm going to knock a mark off for the description because, yeah, you really should be, in my opinion, definitive on what this beer is. Don't call it a red beer, because that's going to immediately make me think it's a red ale, but it's not. It's a really good English pale ale, as it says on the label on the front. Like the label, very nice indeed, full colour, no taking the piss. Yeah, good. Solid 8 out of 10. Definitely recommended. If you're a fan of English pale ales, if you like the Timothy Taylor stuff, if you've tried the Hepworth stuff that I'd recommend, we can get hold of it. I know it's difficult for those up north who don't have access to the local supermarkets around here, because I think, I don't know whether Hepworth do online beer sales. I think Beers of Europe may do them, I'm not sure. But if you do, I mean, that is a really good pale ale. If you like malty beer, that's a good one. And this ain't bad either. I would probably buy this again, actually. I like it that much. It's good. Would I buy it over Tim Taylor? No. Would I buy it over the Hepworth stuff? No. But if them two weren't available and this was available, yeah, definitely. It's a good 8 out of 10, recommended. And remember, beer is working class champagne.